Brisbane fans, it may have taken a bit of a struggle and a bit of your heart rate during that game, but you were able to successfully come back against Melbourne on Friday night and take a spot in the top 8 for the first time this season. The game as it began, which we will obviously get into a lot more, was it was far from that to begin. Far from that. First quarter, I thought Brisbane should have been up by a lot more. I thought that they were just winning clearances a lot more, and I thought that their aerial marking game, and when they entered inside 50, was obviously way more on shape than what Melbourne were, which shouldn't have been much of a surprise to a lot of people. But the big thing I felt with Brisbane that let them down so much during that first quarter was inaccuracy. When they fired shots at goal, they just struggled to hit them so much and really struggled to put them on the scoreboard, which really came back to bite them in that second term in particular, when I thought that Melbourne had their best quarter of the year easily. For the first time all season, I felt like they were just so smart and so confident heading inside 50s. Heading inside 50, and I thought for the first time they showed genuine serious marking pressure in the contest. I thought Clayton Oliver and Jack Vardy were playing just phenomenal in the midfield, and they were just straight up balls, just going at it and just getting the ball, and I thought Mike Gorm was seriously outplaying Oscar McInerney. And the Demons for the first time looked exciting in the quarter for their in general play style, and they took a strong 23-point lead. And the question for them and both teams heading into the break were alright, can Melbourne keep this up? They had started incredibly well, but could they keep it up? And could Brisbane potentially make the adjustments that they needed to be able to come back directly into this contest? And overall, the third quarter was a little bit of just kind of sailing along. Brisbane won it 3-2, but I felt like Melbourne still had a strong advantage going to the fourth. The fourth is where things really began though. In the fourth quarter, let's just say that I felt like the script was completely flipped, and obviously this is where the main summary of this game is really going to begin. Going into that third quarter, I said repeatedly, Simon Goodwin cannot play a defensive game plan in the fourth quarter, and his coaching box quite literally told him, do not play a defensive game plan in the fourth quarter. What does he do in the fourth quarter? He deliberately plays a defensive game plan, and I thought that when Melbourne had that first score against it, they went into their shells again. Happened against North Melbourne and happened against here. They just went into their shells again. Whereas I thought Brisbane played the fourth quarter with such energy and such excitement all throughout that by the 8-minute mark, I felt you knew who was going to win. It was like watching a movie. You just knew that Brisbane were going to eventually complete the comeback. You just knew it was going to happen. Absolutely knew it was going to happen. And their midfield, they started winning everything that Melbourne was winning in the second quarter. Their midfield started dominating. I thought that their defense started playing really well, and just their pressure was relentless. But in a way, they probably should have won the game by more. I think they should have won by 15 points, not 6 points that they ended up winning by. Because when they entered inside 50s, they dropped so many easy marks and so many easy opportunities that honestly the final score flattered them. Melbourne were literally giving them the game. They were handing it to them here's the game. We want to lose this. Here's the game. But they just could not take it for whatever reason they didn't want to. And I'm just going to be quick about this, but from a Melbourne perspective, In the second and third quarter, I was really turning a page on them. I was really like, oh shit, maybe something could come of this. You know, maybe something could come of this season. But in the fourth quarter, choke, utter choke. And it's been something that's come up, that's been back since the 2023 semi-final against Carlton. They just went into their shells again and just choked it. Absolutely choked it, and Goodwin proved a little bit of how much of a hack he kind of is. They played well for 3 quarters, but honestly, that last quarter proved why I have little trust in them still. That they're going to find ways to blow games because of the lack of connection and almost panicking in the fourth quarter. And I think that's the biggest thing they need to work on now. The panicking in the fourth quarter, because that was a choke. That was a choke, straight up. And Brisbane, as much as I want to say, they did well. They did well to come back, but they really should have won that game by more. And honestly, 11-20, they were begging to be in the inaccuracy finals, but just survived it late. So it's a win, and you have a lot of stuff you can work on with the win, but if you're going to challenge Sydney, Carlton, Collingwood, you gotta play better than that if you're Brisbane. You just gotta. Melbourne will let you off the hook because they just go in their shells in the fourth quarter, but you gotta play better than that against the legitimate contenders. You just have. By the way, one more thing for the inaccuracy files. Melbourne didn't help themselves with their fourth quarter performance, but they also didn't help themselves kicking 11-15 for the game. And the worst part is that wasn't even the worst of it. Brisbane seriously dodged a bullet by this because they kicked 11-20. They kicked 11-20, so they seriously dodged a bullet this game. Overall, for both teams' next opponent, Melbourne plays West Coast at the MCG. A rematch of that game in which Harley Reid just absolutely fooled and bedazzled them in Perth. And Brisbane play Adelaide at Adelaide Oval up next. So yeah, very interesting Friday night game.